What's going on, everybody? Goose on the 13th here with another video checking out a new support, believe it or not. And I say believe it or not because this is at 650 cost. We had the refined Gelgoog or the RF here. One thing to note right out of the gate is that not only is it a support, it does have space compatibility and priority 2. And when we look at the skills, that'll make a little bit more sense because this, as you can see from the weapon setup here, is actually a 2 melee suit. Other things to note, Gelgoog beam rifle. This actually has decent output, 2200, 400 range. It's ammo based, and it does have a charge. It's a 3-hit burst, all of them stun, yada yada. Very good. I'm surprised with how this looks, that it actually allows it to move while firing. Definitely dig that. We then have the arm missiles, which from what I looked at, and obviously when we get into practice I can confirm again, but the arm missiles on this actually have a little bit of ASL to them. 2 hits with this, which it only has 2 in the first place, will actually get you a stun for 1100 power each and 300 range. Shortest range thing here because both this and our next weapon, the beam launcher, are both 400 meters. Unlike this one, this is actually heat based. This is the only heat based weapon on this suit. And as you can see in general, because they also let it be a 2 melee suit, doesn't really have a lot of other stuff to work with, which I'll get into later. Not only in this, but probably in one of our example fights as well. Because the beam launcher, as you see here, is focus required and is 4.5 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, except for when you consider that you only have 3 range weapons, and the cooldown time on this is actually pretty considerable. Again, 4 seconds, it feels like an eternity when you're actually in the game. And I say that because these both have a minimum of 400 meters in, or not a minimum, but a maximum of 400 meters. And this is 300. Most of the hits that you're going to be doing when you're moving towards anything are probably going to happen a lot further away than the amount of time it's going to take you to get to anything. But let's get into the brass tacks of that right now when it comes to our stats and skills. So 25k health. Pretty healthy for something even at this cost. Ballistic resistance is 22, beam resistance is 30, melee resistance is 20. So not awful. They're at least in double digits and in the 20s minimum, but not very high either. Range strength and melee strength are pretty balanced, with the range strength only leaning a little bit forward at 35 as to where melee is 30. Movement speed of 130, top speed of 210, so not a slouch in terms of general movement to take advantage of those balancers and all that good stuff once we get into the skills. Thruster gauge of 70 and turning speed of 72. For the pirate slottage, we have close, medium, and long with 13, 18, and 17. And we do have a decent laundry list of skills here. So, High Performance Radar 2, Anti-Stealth 1, not bad. Kind of makes me wonder what you're really going to be keeping an eye on, depending, especially at this cost range, but nice to have. I feel like most things after a certain point, regardless of what's going on at the cost, should just have that. Observational data link, of course, highest performance aerospace gimbal because this is a spacesuit. Resist move, so it does get the roll. Obviously, keep in mind because it's a support, you don't get iframes, you instead get that reduction by 50, which, depending on who you ask, that might be a little bit better considering that you tend to get clipped when you roll anyway. Flight control program level 3, so it can redirect itself in the air. Anti-blast stabilizer level 1, so when you're actually getting in there with the 2 melee, you at least don't have to risk getting stunned if you run out of gas while you're doing it. Melee composite system uses a melee attack or tackle to cancel hard landings after jumping or high-speed movement, so you're a little bit more flexible when you're trying to really pursue things with your melee. High spec AMBAC level 2, force injector level 2, which, to be honest, almost feels like it should be 3 just to get some extra reduction because you blow through those redirects pretty quick. Instant thruster precision system, so in this case, even though you do have a resist move and you do have some decent force injectors, you also have a chance of doing 2 tackles because it reduces thruster consumption by 20% during tackle attacks. Obviously, you can't have too much peeled off by the time that you do it, otherwise you'll still just do the one. This is where things get a little bit interesting though, and seeing all this definitely gives me flashbacks of the DJ Assault, which was another suit at a different cost entirely that was trying to... It felt like it was being added in and being built the way that it was to try to solve a problem. So pursuit, range, and melee means that whenever these are toppled, one way or the other, you're getting extra damage for when they're on the ground. Anti-air range means that for anything that's, you know, flying at you from the air, range attack damage, airborne favorable category enemies by 50%. Enemies that are airborne due to a skill effect are also targeted. So anything flapping around, anything flying at you, yada yada yada. Special leg buffer level 3, which I think it's weird that for the legs they let it just be 25. It should probably just be 30. And then counter boost. Something that we haven't seen a little bit on a support. So your mobile suit attack, defense, and mobility will increase temporarily after doing a counter. Also, less time is needed for range weapons to focus and melee weapons to charge. So obviously that means that they ready up faster. And there was a match that we had where I definitely felt that on the bazooka. I just kind of wish that it was a little bit easier to mitigate that with the ring, but I think because they have counter boosters, like, you should be getting in there and then you'll be rewarded for it. It's like, that's not how this game works at this cost. And I'll definitely get into that a little bit more as we talk about things. But for now, the enhancement list, +1 to anti-beam, +1 to range strength, +1 to thrusters, and then your complex expansion slot for the extra part slots, 1 each, comes in at 2480 at the very end. So for the unlockables, we also have +5 to thrusters and +5 to range strength at the very end for 7440. All right. Definitely have seen a handful of these when we were running around. The other thing to note is that the bigger reason that this is focus required is because it does do a heavy attack or a heavy stagger when it happens. We'll get into practice and we'll talk about this a little bit more as well. Oh, hurry up. Please. I beg. Get up and get up in there. Ah, there we go. So I'm a few minds of this. I'll show you the usual. Yep, tap here. This is something I should show right away because 1, 2, anything with even a smidge of damage control, those 2 missiles, not going to be enough to stop it. For anything that has maneuver armor on top of that, I'm going to have a hard time. Let me see if I can sweep this. You know what? It'll be easier to do it on these other guys. But yeah, regular stone with this, and then it's gonna be a 3-round burst when we get over here real quick. Try to just like move back. So as you can see, stuns on contact. All 3 of them do. That's a really long charge for this. The other thing is that for as long as that takes to charge, it's nice that it gives you a heavy stagger. I kind of wish that it pierced. The fact that neither charge on these actually pierces is a little frustrating. But you at least do have the combo controller so you can get in some extra swings in there. And you're doing a considerable amount. Keep in mind that that's the damage for when this suit is naked. It doesn't have any parts or any modifications or anything like that going on. And we can just do the example for the 1, 2 regular suit, no DC, yada yada. The thrust on this, noticing that a lot. And then the old overhand 1-2, I actually like that a lot. Be careful of the Gelgoog swing. You really gotta favor the side to try to get that straight on, because if you try to do it straight on, it's gonna lead you forward into, you know, your swing's gonna miss on the left, depending on which way you're leading your body into it. I honestly think, and I think this is something that they did for Char's Gelgoog as well, right? I think that any Gelgoog that has just an Naginata should have a chance to actually have a 2 melee setup. At this point, it seems kind of silly that that's not just a thing across the board. So the other thing to keep in mind, and this is what I'm talking about, like there's not a lot to really talk about in terms of like the weapons, because there's not really a lot that it's juggling right here. So the missile's very visible amount of little chunkage there, but that being said, the beam's not very apt, and because of the charge time on this, it's not super worth it to use it for this when you get a heavy stagger out of it anyway. And the charge burst on this does a little bit, but you're mostly going to notice it go down when you're just doing the missiles. And the other thing is that a lot of the time you're only going to have your beam launcher ready to go because the charge up time or the cooldown time and the reload time on the other two weapons for as fast as you can go through that ammo is a little rough. But you have to charge that, and that takes time. And in a cost range like this, with a bunch of really crazy shit like the prototype double Zeta and all this other shit, raid-wise and just general movement-wise, especially with the dead ends on and all that stuff too, you don't have time. Now that being said, if you're just doing simple plinks, maybe trying to mix in and get in there, and like you could say, oh well, that's just what you should be doing as a support anyway, but like, again, a little bit hard to juggle. It does have decent speed, but it's not really super agile, even though they are giving it some more flexibility than you would expect for most supports. But you got to keep in mind, this is where the Overon, you know, full armor and all that shit is, where it has the deflector that not only lets it block other shots, but also melee. Like, it can just walk past it and has like all that reduction and shit too, while still having, you know, a lot of flexibility melee and otherwise like this thing does. So I don't really know, outside of just, you know, being easier to get. Like, we legitimately got this out of like 110 spin. It is a 3-star suit, obviously a lot more accessible than some 4-star shitter that was like super delayed and stuff like that. And like I said, it does feel like this is trying to solve a problem that honestly I don't think it really does, but you can do your job pretty well in this. I feel like in a lot of cases, especially if we're going to be on 6 teams, as you're going to see, we're probably going to be doubling up. And this does have to contest more directly with the cannon gun as well as the other support overons. So we do have some matches. A couple of them, most of them I think were 16 matches. So we'll put one of those examples right around here. So this time we're doing 2 RF Gelgoogs.
Be careful.
So potential for 2 heavy stuns at any given time. I don't really understand why there's another Gelgoog here that has no Vulcans. Like, if you're gonna retroactively give the Marine theirs, like how does this not have any? One over there. They just got that bacon. Interesting thing is that the hitbox on these is usually pretty generous. Like, it'll wash over whatever it hits. It doesn't seem to centralize on a surface like smaller beams do. Oh, we're just dueling. Oh, you didn't melee. The fuck? Get out of here. Those buffers, even though it's type advantage, like a little bit rough. It's also obvious that some of these guys are definitely ooh. Almost. Is that enough? No. Is that? I'm assuming that also has DC. It'd be weird if it didn't. Oh, they got a Demeter over there actually. Oh god. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. Jeez. It's got a little bit of, does that have a little bit of ASL on it? Let's double check. We're not in a good place here. They're starting to wipe us more.
Retreat. We lost an allied unit. Significant damage detected.
Oy.
Taking too much damage.
Oh my god.
Been destroyed.
The scary thing is that we're not really doing a lot with our range,
Select a location and
and
method
I
for
think we're only doing as much as we are with the... Or not with the range, but with the melee, and I think we're only doing as much as we are
Pull
with
back.
the range because we put so much on. Especially considering all the body buffers that things have at this cost when we're hitting some of these dudes with other shit.
Incoming.
Oh jeez. I was like, what did you bring over here? Oh my god, I'm just getting clipped by bullshit.
Light damage detected. We lost an allied unit. Enemy unit destroyed. Significant damage detected. Proceed with caution. Beacon captured by the enemy. Taking too much damage. An ally has destroyed an enemy mobile suit.
This really needs another weapon that's not a required charge. Or at least just needs something that has like a normal fire. Make it like a 2-tier charge or something.
Enemy infantry
There it
eliminated.
is.
Beacon capture confirmed.
Whatever. I'm dealing with it.
An ally is requesting support.
Oh, but it also stunned to get it. Oh, no, because my buddy's in the way.
Been destroyed.
Yeah, it's RF and Gelgoog. 650 support with like 3 different forms of Pursuit Auxiliary Hunt it. A roll, 2 priority, and balancers. It's got a required charge that's like 4.5 seconds long that does heavy stagger. And the main gun you can actually walk and fire with. Has a regular stun and then a 3-round burst that, you know, all of them stun, that kind of shit. This guy's a funky Gelgoog swing, unfortunately, though. Ooh. And it gets kind of swarmed easy.
Mobile suits on its last legs.
Hi, everybody.
Beacon capture.
I got no leggers. That's with it having a bunch of buffer, too. That's the crazy thing.
Mobile suit.
And still just taking that much shit. But unfortunately,
We're just getting started.
it's having to deal with PZZs and Demeters and doing all kinds of dirt and shit. We are everywhere. What the fuck? Oof, what?
Requesting
One's probably
redeployment.
stuck. Ooh. Oh yeah. Dum dum. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
An ally has destroyed
That melee on when we get to the soft bits of a suit though, in the melee. Not too shabby. It's just not very likely because of how much bullshit there is that has so many buffers. Oh, oh yeah. Bye bye.
and bases.
That's just me hitting myself though.
Damage detected, but you're right. You can stay in the fight.
No. Oh my god.
Enemy fire incoming. Retreat.
He's teasing it. Yeah. What am I looking at? Ah, shit. The support just dropped. Oh, he's got friends. No. He's too fast.
For the operation.
Is he gonna hesitate?
An ally has destroyed an enemy You lost an ally unit. Significant
Oh boy, oh boy, oh god, ow, ow.
Taking too much.
Shoot them more, please.
Mobile suits been destroyed.
Why did they immediately run back?
We lost
Oh, the
ally.
Demeter got over.
Has destroyed an enemy mobile suit.
Fucking shit. We're probably gonna lose here. 2's really low. They're gonna start focusing on 1 in a second.
Requesting redeployment.
Several of them are really low though.
Destroyed an enemy mobile suit. Mission is ended.
A lot of them low. That's the frustrating thing about this suit, I will say.
Goodness.
It feels like it needs another weapon. Because even though it does have that priority 2, it feels way too risky to go in there when there's so much shit that can just like breathe at you funny and fuck you real bad. Like the missiles have ASL. They do stun if both of them hit, but only on things that don't have damage control. And the fact that one of your other main stuns doesn't have like a basic shot, it's just a really long required charge that you get a heavy stagger out of if you're careful not to hit your friends. Kinda sucks. I think they really wanted you to lean on the melee more, but like, I want to say, let me see something. And so that was our run on the RF Gelgoog. I'm definitely not opposed to running this during the rest of the week. It's just that the way that the lead-ins work and the lack of speed for that charge of stuff really makes me anxious. But when you do actually start landing the melee and getting mixed in there, it does feel good. And the boost counter is a very nice thing. I just think that the way this works, even if it does give you the 2 tackles, you're putting yourself at a lot of risk even when you do have the extra priority and stuff to work with, because anything that you could try to actively, you know, bulk at, unless you're running a bulk build and are sacrificing a lot of that finishing power, you're gonna get clapped a lot, because this thing does not have a lot of defense despite the amount of health that it has. And because the only real buffer that it has body-wise is on the legs, just to make sure that they don't die right away, anywhere else that it gets hit, that's just clean hot damage. So you really got to keep that in mind. It still has a lot of the support tax, especially with the sort of high output that it has to deal with at this cost, despite how flexible it is otherwise. But I don't think it's bad, and if you get it easy enough, you know, from a single 10 or whatever, that's good. There's definitely something to be said about the cannon gun being a lot more solid, still having the same kind of ferocity with the melee without having to cycle between 2 of them anyway. And you can definitely tell from the sheer indignance of people in the opening day of like 3 cannon guns being in the lobby and trying to push this thing out, like, do not run this, please, I'm trying to get rating here. You know, that kind of shit. But for anyone who's been looking forward to the refined suits and stuff, this is another one for the list. It's a little bit hard to really know outside of the couple games that they may have been introduced in a long time ago that this is like the most modern interpretation. It makes me wonder if we'll even see this in G-Gen Eternal, because that released and launched recently as well. But for now, it's here. So if you want to go for it, it's not the worst. Definitely not an absolute must roll for kind of situation. But I'm sure you'll be seeing people pump out numbers and do really crazy matches like, oh, look how much I got to do in this, woo, kind of shit. But like, you know, don't worry about it too much. All the same, there's still a lot of other things that they need to work on and fix at 650 and just from 600 cost and up in general. And especially with the 750 banner that they just released, the kind of stuff that's on there, also not really doing anything for that cost range either. So we're still kind of in the same boat as we were before the update. But all that aside, that's the long and short of it for my take on the RF Gelgoog. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to check this out and all of our other streams, since we do multi-stream between here and as well as Twitch. And until next time, I hope you guys have a good rest of your morning, night, or whatever. And I'll talk to you all later.